Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Pop Culture Junkies. Today I want to review another great series from the past. Today I want to talk about the Tower of Babel. Let's go. A while back I talked to you about Executioner Song, the huge X crossover. Today I want to talk to you about the Tower of Babel. I want to give some DC love. I want to talk to you about a great 4 issues of JLA. Probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest JLA stories ever of all time. Huge impacts even today in the DC line, particularly within the league itself. You can pick these up pretty cheap, but they've always been pretty affordable. So you can totally go out and get them. There are trade paperbacks collected of this. I don't know if they're still in print, but they're, again, easy to acquire, guys. So first things first. The series came out in about 2000, I want to say. July, I guess it's there on the cover. It came out in July of 2000. Perfect. The story centers around Ra's al Ghul. You can pronounce it Ra's al Ghul. I don't care. I'm saying Ra's al Ghul because that's what I said forever until Batman Begins. And so I'm just going to keep saying it that way. So they launched this huge attack on the Justice League, right? They come out with all these different attacks that lets people know they have knowledge, like intimate knowledge of the league's personal lives and how they're vulnerable. And so while that's happening, the league itself is trying to deal with this attack that attacked all the language centers of humanity. So Ra's al Ghul broadcasts a signal across the world, right? And it renders all written language unreadable and scrambled nonsense to the human brain, throws everything out of whack with the whole world. So while everything's happening to everyone else, Batman realizes Ra's plan too late, right? He's the only one physically unaffected while all these things are happening to the rest of the league. And so he's been busy trying to figure out who stole his parents from their graves, right? He's been out here trying to find out who stole his parents from their graves. All this other shit starts happening. And so he's been searching for their bodies. He figures out who stole them. Al Ghul used them as a distraction the whole time, right? Ra's totally tricked him, as he usually does. And so when Batman invades his lair, Ra's threatens to drop these corpses in the Lazarus pit to resurrect them. That's the craziest shit to me. Like, his threat is, I'll bring your parents back to life. But that's what happens. It's comics, guys. Outside in the real world, his second phase of his attack comes into play, scrambling not only the written word, but the spoken word as well, right? The other league members, so what happened to them, Jon Jones is covered with nanites. So Jon Jones, a Martian Manhunter, for those of you that don't know, his weakness is fire, right? He's weak to fire. DC characters are classic in the sense that they have all these powers, but they always have one weakness, right? So these old classic characters like Jon Jones, the Martian Manhunter, his weakness is fire. So he gets covered with nanites that convert the outer layer of his skin, right, to magnesium, right? Jon Jones, the Martian Manhunter, can change at a molecular level kind of into anything he wants. These nanites force it to change into magnesium, causing him to burst into flames anytime he's exposed to air, which is constantly. So he's constantly on fire, trying to figure out how to get out of it. Aquaman is rendered hydrophobic, and it's using an altered form of Scarecrow's fear toxin. So he's actually afraid of water, and so he can't use half of his powers. He depends on water to survive. I mean, just like everyone depends on it. He depends on it a little more. He is Aquaman. He will dry out. And so he's kind of stuck with this fear toxin. Plastic Man gets frozen solid and gets shattered by a hammer. Side note, this also happens to Plastic Man in another story. It was about like 30 issues later. The Justice League goes in the past. They all get turned to stone, or at least Plastic Man does. And then he gets shattered and left at the bottom of the ocean. And so while everyone else, like in the future, everything gets fixed and the Justice League comes back and everything's back to normal, Plastic Man has just been hanging out in the ocean for 3,000 years. But back to the list. Kyle Rayner is the Green Lantern of the moment, and he is rendered blind. And then Wonder Woman, again, back to the magical nanites, is trapped in a virtual reality battle with her perfect challenger, right? And so she's just stuck in her head fighting a warrior she can't beat. And so eventually her heart will give out and die, supposedly. But either way, she's stuck in that virtual reality fighting someone she can't beat. The Flash gets struck with like a magic bullet that causes him to phase out or something ridiculous. He starts having a bunch of seizures at light speed. And then Superman's skin becomes transparent after exposure to red kryptonite, and he gets like a power overload. So someone knew all of these weaknesses of all of these heroes and exactly what to do to get to them, right? Who in the world could that be? So while the rest of the league is recovering, they begin to recover as Batman begins to rescue them. Batman is forced to reveal what he knows about all these attacks, right? So he, the ultimate planner, worried that any one of them or all of them could go off the rails at one point, and he developed these contingency plans to take them out of commission. That's right, Batman developed plans to take out all of the Justice League. And so Talia al Ghul, who you may have seen in the movies, Talia is Ra's al Ghul's daughter. She's also been in love with Batman. They've also had a kid together, but she's also pretty loyal to her father still. So she broke in the Batcave, stole the files, right? Doink. And that's how the League of Assassins gained this intel that Ra's al Ghul then used on the entire League, while he also was attacking the entire world. Finally, the red kryptonite wears off. Superman's able to destroy the machine that's causing the chaos with the rest of the world, right? Because once Superman's out, Ra's al Ghul is really no challenge at all. He's just an old man with a sword, guys. Let's be real here. And then finally, Ra's reveals that he was about to release this deadly nerve agent, spark a war between two atomic nations, and then Superman, Batman, restored Aquaman, Martian Manhunter. They get to Ra's base. Flash, Green Lantern, Plastic Man, Wonder Woman are able to prevent the release of the toxin. And then the Justice League goes back to talk about what happened. And can you guess what happened next? They were pretty fucking pissed off. And so they call a vote to kick Batman out of the Justice League. And so Flash, Green Lantern, and John vote against kicking him out. Wonder Woman, Plastic Man, and Aquaman vote to kick him the fuck out right now. And the tie-breaking vote is Superman. But before they can even get to that point, right, they're all sitting here arguing about how to vote, and they turn around to tell him to give Batman the answer, and he's already gone. So essentially what Batman says later on is, I already knew the answer. Like, I knew you guys were going to kick me out, and if you'd even gotten to the point of voting, I didn't need to sit around and wait for it. So I'll fucking be on my way to go fight the Joker and everything else. Great series, guys. It's, like I said, it's 4 issues. It's really affordable. It's one of the best Justice League stories out there, just for what they go through, how it affects the Justice League. A lot of these points still come up today in Justice League stories. The characters, a lot of the ramifications of what happened here are still brought up between these characters. And so even if you're not a DC fan, if you're just a fan of great superhero comics, this is about as close to a Marvel-esque story as the Justice League would get. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's because it makes the Justice League are typically gods, and this story makes them very human. And so they're not the gods that you typically see. That's the hard part about writing a good Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman story, Green Lantern. You can just make anything out of light with my magic ring. It's hard to write a story where those people are challenged and where you can relate to them as a normal person. And that's always been the strength of Marvel and always been the weakness of DC. This series really shows how you can utilize those characters, make them a little more human, bring them down to earth, and tell a great story. So again, guys, JLA, Tower of Babel. If you see it, if you get a chance, pick the issues up, pick the trade up. I think you'll enjoy it. That's all I have for today. Remember to hit that like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.